So Xero Inventory isn't that great. Yes, the functionality's there, but does it really solve your business challenge? Today, we're going to be unboxing Unleashed Software, an inventory management platform that you can use to scale up your inventory management processes. All right, so we're on the site here, and yes, I can see that they actually use HubSpot. So we say, okay, got it. We can have a look at the platform. So they've got quite a lot of information, but I guess they're tailoring it to their audience or the type of people who are looking here. Most people, by the time they're looking at inventory, they're probably not looking for that sort of like point solution type of look and feel. They're a little bit more information heavy. So you can see Xero Inventory software, 9 management performance metrics. They're targeting sort of the financial person in the business. So having a look back up here, there's a couple of screenshots. We love to see integrations. Let's have a look at, we've got product, and there's a whole lot of features and functions. So broken into categories, we've got the purchases, inventory, production, sales, apps. It looks like they're trying to do like a platform as a service, and we'll get into that a little bit more. I think the purchasing side's really good. A lot of time people think that, yep, I need to store 3 or 4 items, like individual products that they bought off the shelf, but quite often there's a value creation chain. Maybe you go through some clever purchasing, or you go through some production process. You've got here things like bill of materials, which is quite handy. Then we've got pricing. I always like looking at the pricing page. We've got some basic, the medium, large plus. Seeing how they've structured their pricing page, obviously people mostly read from left to right, so they're trying to target those bigger businesses first. So we've got this popular one in the middle, 8 users included, mid-size. So generally, unless you're going to go for 1 to 5 users and you've got the budget for $379 a month. And generally, this is in addition to your accounting software. So you need to budget another $60, $70, $80 a month, depending on what tier of Xero you are. I've mentioned Xero a couple of times. It's worth noting that Unleashed came out around about the same time as Xero, which is the accounting software. It is also a New Zealand-based company. Unleashed was one of the first on the Xero marketplace as soon as that became available. Getting back into the pricing page, we've got unlimited products, supplies, all the things that you would expect. A mobile sales app, which is always handy. I do like making things mobile. Sandbox environment is good, particularly as you become a larger business. Now, a sandbox environment is really important when you're making changes. If you've got a lot of staff, a lot of things moving in your business, you don't want to disrupt that. You need to be able to make the changes. And sometimes changes can be quite large, and there might be several phases to a change. But if you've got 100 people logging in, doing different things all simultaneously throughout the day, you can actually cause some confusion or problems or lost data and things like that. So a sandbox is a great way to pre-build, push it all out as one when it's ready to go. Coming back to our pricing page, we've got document designer. So clearly you can customize your sales orders, purchase orders, and things like that. Production module, library, e-commerce hubs. So I think it's really important to be able to connect to e-commerce so that you can sell your products remotely, because a lot of times, people aren't really going into brick and mortar stores. Everybody's very well trained in Amazon or eBay or things like that. And if you've got a niche product or service, it's a lot easier for you to sell that, particularly if you make it available online for other people to buy. So it looks like the e-commerce integrations work with Shopify, Amazon, and I'm assuming that WooCommerce would also be in that mix because it's one of the largest for selling online for e-commerce. And because it's open source, there are a significant number of people using it. I think B2B e-commerce is a real game changer when it comes to today's mode of business. When you're dealing with other companies, sometimes you've got different deals, you've got different pricing, you've got different availability of products. Having a B2B e-commerce means that they get a portal where they can log in and then they get the wholesale prices. But on the normal website, you've got your price is $10. You might have another rule that says buy 10, you get $8. So when you buy 20, you get it for $7 or whatever those pricing brackets are. But you can do that in a B2B e-commerce environment because you're trying to promote wholesale. I'm always a big fan of like business intelligence. The more data you get, the harder it is to see patterns, trends, what's happening, things like advanced inventory manager. So I'm assuming you can bulk update things. API access, particularly as you get bigger, you need to be able to do things like ship an order or synchronize it with another platform or let somebody else know that something has happened. So maybe giving pre-warning to the warehouse department that something's been sold. I'm not sure what flight paths are. I'm assuming that is a onboarding process. Here we go. Discover more about remote onboarding. Compare plan features. Let's click into that quickly. All right. So this is basically just a high level overview. Vendors with complex solutions like to give give examples of how you can use their product. So giving the industry examples helps to allow you to imagine how you might be able to use the platform for your business, how you would see your team operating inside that platform. The other thing that I really like about this is the training. The training allows you to skill up the next generation without having to go and create your own training. The more you customize, not only do you have to build, you also have to provide the training. And in future, as you go and update those features and functions, you then have to go and update the product and update the changes in the training materials. Keeping on top of that can be a real headache. So having it available in a point solution, well, in a solution that's pre-built, allows you to save that time and effort and cost in doing it yourself. So I'm in the Sandbox environment that they've given me here. You can see that there's some dummy figures in here. So we've got sales revenue, total customers, stock on hand. This is just some like dashboard cards, and I'm pretty sure you can customize what's displayed here. You've got the period that it's showing. So at the moment it's showing month to date, but I could go quarter, year to date, last month, last quarter, last year. Now, one thing I don't see here, which I would really like to see, is trailing 12-month revenue. Now, it'd be good to see if I can create a custom report for that, because I like to know how I've done things in the last week, couple of days, month, and how that translates across the year. Am I trending up? Am I trending down? Those sorts of things are visible on a trailing 12 months. That is the 12 months exactly prior to today, and that's a moving bracket that moves along with each day. So that would be really good if I could see that, which I can't. Annoying, but hey, we'll live with it. Coming back to the platform, we can see here's some transactions. I don't have anything here, but if I did, I'm sure it would say, 5 quotes open that are open. Batch expiry, it looks like I've got a product here. So it says assembly glues, particularly if you had food products or medical products that had batches and use by dates, that you could keep track of that in here. We go to purchases and purchase orders. A purchase order is a great way to just be really clear on what it is that you've bought. So when you're keeping an inventory system, it's important to see your sales as they go out and what you need to order as it comes in. So potentially you've sold more than what you actually have. You might need to raise a purchase order for the rest. Or if someone says, you've only got 10 on the website, but I want to buy 100. Now you need to be able to quickly create a purchase order to your supplier to give them the evidence or the document that is the formal request that you actually want that thing. So a purchase order, once you've got all your stock and everything created, you should just be able to click, it'll send the purchase order. They get a formal notification that that's what you want to buy. They then create the sales order, which matches with that. And then once the stock has been shipped, received, accepted, paid for, then that's when the invoice is generated. A lot of times people go to invoice first, but that's actually not the best way from a processing or a financial processing perspective. Coming back onto here, we've got receipt of purchase. So let's just say I go and buy a product. If we go back to add purchase, I can add a line. So it looks like I can go order lines, cost lines. So cost lines, I'm assuming, is like your shipping, any kind of like storage costs. I don't really have anything saved in the system. So maybe if I found a supplier, I don't have. So I'd obviously have to do a lot of setup. So I've got to set up a supplier, give them the name, what warehouse are they coming from. If we click into supplier code, let's see, maybe we've got a supplier here. This one's in US dollars, and I can have a look at their address details, contact information. I can see past purchases. This one's got one here. Then there's returns, costings, and attachments, which we'll go into in a sec. Let's have a look at purchase order. So the purchase order's got 3 items on it. There's 100 units of each item. We've got a price, and then it rolls up the price to a line total, and then it's giving me a invoice or a purchase order total. So if there was any particular, you could put in your tax or any discounts, anything that you're expecting from that vendor, so that you can kind of control, because you can't always guarantee that they're going to follow the process that was agreed upon, because you might have got someone who is new in the business that doesn't know the past agreement. And it looks like with this gear icon, I can change some of the headings. I can move up or down. Attachments are good, particularly if you're ordering things that have some kind of specification or that need a certificate. That can be quite useful. Or even if you just had like a sketch of what you wanted to achieve, anything like that. So view receipt, clone, return and save. Let's go view receipt. So this must have been a received order. So yes, it's showing complete. It's one thing to order it, but then you need to tell the system when it's arrived. So theoretically, this kicks it off once you've raised a purchase order. This is what you're expecting to receive. When it comes into the doc, you can go, yep, we've received 100 of each, or maybe one box of 35 was missing. So you can reduce the amount that you've actually received. So here we've got order quantity versus receipt quantity. So that way you can track if something was damaged along the way, maybe it fell off the back of the truck, quite literally. And you can then, send it back to the supplier and say, hey, we didn't receive everything. Or, no, I don't agree that this was how many was actually shipped. Let's have a look into, we got supplier returns as well. So now you're tracking, perhaps what it was that got returned. So when you send the item back, perhaps it's on back order to come back again, or they're going to add it to another delivery run. So we go to transactions, stock adjustments, warehouse transfers. So you can have multiple warehouse in here. If you've got one in Brisbane, one in Sydney, one in Melbourne, you can move stock between warehouses just to make sure you've got the right level at each. So back on purchases, inventory, transactions, stock counts. So you can start to audit the amount of counting that you're doing. So you could see how many is supposed to be in stock, and then you can start to walk around the warehouse, identify, is some missing? Was some damaged by, perhaps water or mold? Has something been stolen? Have you sold something but then not accounted for it correctly? This helps you track and manage that. We go into products. We go add a product. We can add quite a lot of detail here, which is good. So never diminishing. So for example, a digital product might be never diminishing. Assembled products. Maybe it contains two other items that need to go together in order for it to create a finished product or assembled product. Components. Maybe an outfit might consist of shoes, pants, shirt, and belt. And one of those components is belt. And the assembled product is outfit, as an example. Obsolete, end-of-life products, you have to get rid of them, or any chance you can sell them for $1, whatever, it's better than nothing. I mean, obviously you need to obey your business rules, but you get the idea. Serialized, so in the case of medical equipment, food, if they're individually serialized, like selling hardware, like phones, laptops, things like that. And then batch tracked. If in the case of food or medical supplies, you want to know that that batch that went out was produced in the right way. If there's any problems with one item out of that batch is contaminated, then you know to recall that entire batch instead of every single product on the shelves. Having a look at the sellable, here we go, allows this product to be added to sales quotes and sales orders. I presume that could be for something like, if it's an internal product where you need to consume it in order to run the business, but you can't sell it. Maybe it's like one of those component items, like a nut, a bolt, a washer, something like that is useful to you, but it's not part of what you actually sell. If we go down here, we can view all products, import, export, product change codes. You can still have that audit control if you're going to change the serial number somewhere. We've got markup pricing. Okay, so this is where when you're doing B2B commerce, you can have markup pricing per tier, and maybe you assign a different tier to a different type of customer. You might charge more to your government clients than you do to your not-for-profits or your general open market. Or you might say region pricing. So say, for example, it's all the same country, but in certain regional areas, it costs more to deliver. Or the availability of delivery drivers or storage or something like that. Maybe there's some special transit. For example, if you're selling ice in the top of Australia, might need a little bit more protective measures and storage to ship it all that way. So if we have a look into production, we've got assemblies. So add an assembly, add a disassembly. And assemblies and disassemblies might be, for example, with the outfit, we've got the shirt, the belt, the pants, shoes. Maybe there's some other items that are there that aren't sold, maybe underwear, things like that. So an assembly can be the things that go together in order to sell that particular item. If we have a look at disassembly, say, for example, if I get a product and it comes as a kit, I might be able to then break that down into another 4 or 5 products that I can then sell individually, or putting things together and taking them apart. So say, for example, if you've got a large-ish item, maybe I'm selling outfits, but then I can also sell different shoes or whatever with the outfits. That can be a different assembly. So you can add a disassembly to break those down again. If we have a look at bill of materials. So bill of materials is kind of like all the things that make up a build. Kind of like what I was saying before with the assemblies and disassemblies. They're very product focused, but then a bill of materials could be that you're allocating costs for, the sewing machine, the amount of thread, the buttons. They're all the things that make the pants, or they're all the things that make the shoes. Each of those have a cost associated. So once you can understand what your costs are, then you can understand what potential potential sell price you might have to do. And then there's other things you can do with things like volume. So obviously the more you can make, the cheaper you can make it. So if we have a look at sales, we can add quotes. We're going to add a quote. If you're going to quote someone, they want 20 widgets, they want it delivered here. Because they're buying 20, you might give them a little bit of a discount. You can send them a quote because they want to know how much it's going to cost in advance of them actually buying it. So you're not sending a sales order. It's just a question. The quote is, I'm going to sell you 20 widgets for $100. You can often set your time, your expiry, so like 30 days. After that period, you can then accept, reject at your discretion. You want to try and expire the price because you want to create some scarcity so that they buy. You also want to create some level of protection so that if your costs change in that period, that you've minimized your risk. You can kind of back out and reissue another quote with the new pricing. View and import, if we go to orders, you can add a sales order. This is kind of like I acknowledge that you have asked for X. So if someone sends you a purchase order, until you send them a sales order, you haven't actually accepted that. So in contract law, you've got the offer and acceptance kind of concept or methodology. The price or the price sticker is like an invitation to treat. So what we're trying to do is mirror what happens as you walk into a shop. When you walk into a shop, you look at the price on the sticker on the shelf, and it says $5 or something like that. That's not actually a promise. That is an invitation to treat. They're actually kind of giving you a quote there. And then when you go to the counter and say, I'll take it, you're kind of giving them your purchase order. Then when they give you they start putting it in the till, they've kind of accepted your order. They can't guarantee that they've got that in the stock. Maybe they've got a policy. They can't sell the one on the floor. They have to go to the warehouse. But even though their demo one is on the floor and the price ticket's on the floor, they have to have a way to be able to say, sorry, we don't have one in stock. So they're kind of checking at that point, and the sales order can still be reneged on if the item is not in stock. If you start with an invoice, you've kind of got a closed contract and you kind of have to deliver. So whether or not you've got them in stock, you have to provide it at that price, at that location, at that time. The sales orders should be the historical retrospective that the transaction has occurred. So the sales order is then accepted with payment, and then the invoice is issued to reflect that payment. Understanding that cycle or process that happens will help you understand what the difference with purchase order, your sales order, your inventory, your any kind of other documentation, memos, credit notes, where all of those appear. I think sometimes people struggle to map the two together. Back to the sales orders, we can view past ones, so we can add an order, and then we should be able to look up the customer. Okay, so see if we've got one in here, a code. Here we go. All right. So you actually have to have an inkling of what they're called, and then they've come up. We've got our tax rates. You can put that in there. If you're going to apply any discounts, or I'm assuming you could have some default settings on the company record come through. Warehouse, where's it going to come from? The delivery method, pick up delivery instructions. And a lot of this ideally would be able to come through on the e-commerce side if you had that set up. Delivery contacts can be usually quite important. Salesperson, who sold the thing, sales order group, catalog, shop, or website. That helps you at scale to understand where your sales are coming from, so you can reinforce the right area. Order lines. Now, order lines, if we add an order line, we should be able to look from our product menu. So that's a comment, but I can't seem to add an order line unless we've got some more stuff set up in the system. Shipments, invoices, credits, and attachments. We can see here we've got line count, item count. If you've got a large volume of things, that can be quite useful, particularly if you're selling hundreds of widgets at a time. You can see the number of lines, you can see the number of items, total, and then, total volume, and then total weight, particularly when you're trying to do shipments. So you might go, are we going to go to a shipping container, or are we going to do a pallet, or are we going to do a box, etc. Then we've got shipments. Let's have a look at view shipments. This would basically be the status of what you're trying to send. So you've got any kind of parked, picked, packed, parked, placed. Sounds like Peter Piper. And then we've got batch complete. So you can, if you go and pick 10 orders simultaneously, then you can mark them all as done. So here we go, batch complete. That's updated that batch. Import, sales, export, credits. Now, I think credit notes, when someone has returned something, particularly if it's been damaged in transit or something like that, then there is a way to apply that credit elsewhere and make sure that you're not over allocating or under allocating or sending stuff out that you shouldn't be. Export credit. credits. It wants to save the file. Let's have a look at customer. Now, I love seeing a good amount of customer information. So we've got you can have customer specific quote templates, which is good. Invoice, packing slips, notes, etc. Print quote when accepted, print order when accepted or when completed. We've got customer type, cash, general, on account, wholesale, salesperson, again, order, default currency, particularly if someone is multinational, GST VAT number. Yep, that's good. Payment terms. Right. So you've got some quite significant payment terms here. So we've got 45 days after end of month. Now, it would be good to see if there is a discount tier. So like net 730. So that means, what is it? 2 net 730. It could be 2% discount if they pay within 7 days. Otherwise, it's the full amount in 30 days. That gets a little confusing and a little difficult to process, but it can be useful if you've got large volumes to incentivize people to pay early. We've got any kind of default discount that you're going to apply. And here we go. We've got address, contacts, delivery. So you can set just one. Okay, so just one delivery address. You can't have multiple. Quotes, orders, credits, customer pricing. We can do it by product group, individual product. Then we can give customer price tier, sell price, minimum quantity. Okay, good. So when you're kind of processing your customer order, that it's going to pick up that if they've bought 10 of those items, maybe you've negotiated, when you buy 10 or more, we'll give you a 10% discount. You can build that into the system here. And then also apply comments, which helps with future-proofing that process. So we're going to add a supplier here. And we've got the ability to grab some pretty basic information, bank branch, bank accounts. Now, having a place to store bank information is quite useful. Now, I know that you can also do that in Xero, but there are a lot of fraud attempts now where someone has sent you an invoice and the invoice gets intercepted and they change the bank details on the invoice. So it's important when you get an invoice for the first time from a supplier that you call them and you just verify over the phone, call it on their open web address, don't call their number or send the email address on the invoice, call the open address from the website. And that way you can guarantee or verify the fact that no one has intercepted that communication. You can then make sure that the BSB and account number are correct and you'll stop the risk of paying some scammer, because even if you pay the scammer, you're still liable for the invoice. E-commerce hub looks like you can integrate with Shopify or Amazon. I would like to see an integration with WooCommerce. So let's have a look at the integration store. Xero, yes. Salesforce, okay, that's good. We've got Unleashed, obviously it integrates with itself. Vend is another point of sale software where you can have it on your physical location, people turn up, you've got the items there, you click on the item and sell it. Kind of like when you go to a restaurant or when you go to, I don't know, a clothing shop or any kind of brick and mortar store. Now, there's quite a strong integration between Vend, Xero, and Unleashed. Perhaps we'll cover that in another video, but we've got the ability to integrate it. Now, there are other platforms that are inventory and point of sale. So it's up to you on how you kind of see it going or how you think you'll be able to use your suite of tools. But bear in mind, we now have 3 platforms that you independently have to pay for, manage and use, and then map data across all 3. So now we're starting getting into the point solution mess of applications, but doesn't mean you shouldn't use them. Perhaps there is a place for all of these things. Let's keep diving in and we'll see where we end up. We've got some other integrations here. These all seem to be some form of data integration. GeoOp. So GeoOp is a field service management tool. Field service management is the ability to see your team members on a map. So particularly if you're moving people in vehicles to their location, if you're a plumber, things like that. So you might be able to use the inventory side to track pipes, cables, if you're an electrician, any kind of hardware that you need for your business. And then GeoOp is to route the technician to the location to do the install. So those two would work together. So potentially now, if you've also got a point of sale software, we're now looking at, Vend for point of sale, Xero for accounting, Unleashed for the inventory, and GeoOp for field service management. Starting to get very complicated in a architecture of tools. Back to here, we've got data exporter. I do like a platform that you can get your data out of. I think it's very important for when you upgrade, when you go to bigger platforms, or when you outgrow these systems. Reports, we've got some general purchase reports. We can see some history. Looks like it's just a line item. We've got supplier. Obviously, Obviously, when you've got a report like this, it's grouping them and you can start to see who your major suppliers are, how much you're ordering from each one. And it's good to be able to see the unit quantity and things like that. Costing analysis, let's run that one. And this is giving us, this is just the one supplier and it looks like they've maintained their price. This one is different products and services. If you're using suppliers for a particular item, then that might help you see which is the best price, availability, that sort of thing. Inventory, we've got products, stock on hand, batch numbers, serial numbers. We've got product allocations. These are all the reports that you can run that are around stock. So if we go into production inquiry, there seems to be a lot on the inventory side, but I would imagine production is quite a new feature inside of Unleashed software. If we're looking at the production process, then we can see that we've got some that are negative numbers and some that are positive numbers. So that's obviously the cost. So maybe looks like we've made money on that one, which is a bookshelf, and we've lost money on that one, which is also a bookshelf. So maybe these are just production run, assembly name, product code. So they're different products. Perhaps they've been made to stock, purchase, allocated quantity, available quantity, stock on hand. Okay, so that's why is because we've made a lot to keep on stock. So they've not been sold, but there is a lot there. So we've got this as a component product and it uses a number of other items. If we look at inventory, we can see there's 2 warehouse locations and they're kept different amounts in different locations. When we are selling them, we can add our different price tiers. Here are the transactions that have occurred. So we've sold 30, we've sold 25, we sold 10, we sold 50. And then references, costs. These are some sales. Let's have a look at this one. Stock adjustment. Okay, let's have a look back again. We've got the other costs, which is the purchase order. That's where we've ordered the stock to then go and make it. So there's the shelf and then there's the glue. All right, let's have a look now at, we've got Advanced Inventory Manager. This is obviously a new function and it looks mostly like reporting. So we can see, we can do some modeling, transaction log. I'm probably limited by my demo. This is a Sandbox environment, stock controls, sales status, but it does help to have some information in here already. Go to segments. Now I can start to see where my strong regions are, which is my biggest supplier. I can see which product group is the strongest, the stock on hand, product type, serialized, sellable, component, batch tracked, and assembled. Business intelligence, again, it's probably going to be similar-ish to that. Now, we do have these dashboard kind of items you can create custom. These are Unleashed default. We've got custom layouts. We can restructure the way that we present this information. Then there's inventory ones, there's production ones, sales ones. And with targets and tracking, that looks like KPI. So KPI, key performance indication, and we don't have the ability to do that on the trial account. But we can start to see previous year revenue, selected year, sales revenue, selected target. So we might say, all right, we made just under $1 million. We want to make under $2 million, we want to make over $2 million, and we can see how we're tracking against the goal. All right, B2B Portal. Obviously, we need to enable that and set that up. That's a little bit different, and we need help to build it out. But I'd imagine it's kind of like an e-commerce where people can download their invoices. Settings is one of my favorite places to go because you can really start to understand how the platform goes together, what drives it, how does it work, and what some of your limitations might be. We're back into the settings. We've got company, configuration. We've got some major settings that we can turn on or off. We go to settings. We've got ship from multiple warehouses, particularly if someone bought 5 items, 3 are at warehouse 1 and the others at warehouse 2. Quite often you'll get that from the bigger players. Minimum order value limit. We are not going to allow anyone to order something that's 10 cents or $5 or whatever. You can set that. I think that's quite useful. So you stop any 1 cent transactions accidentally being completed. Shipment quantities. Let's see. We've got address, contact, images, presumably for using in different areas like the B2B portal, invoicing, footer, so you put bank details, purchasing, and email templates, which we can custom, and it looks quite basic. It doesn't look to be too much in terms of HTML editing, really just seems to be around the basic merge tags that we have here. Billing settings are quite important, and we don't have the permissions. Let's have a look at file library. Any kind of like product PDFs, disclosure statements, or instruction manuals would probably go in here. Security, I had to set up 2FA when I came in here, so I've set up Google Authenticator, which I think is quite good, particularly when you're dealing with anything financial. We've got email logs, which helps. Oh, there are a lot of settings under system. Assembly status parked and complete. So you could add a couple more. We've got adjustment reasons: lost, stolen, damaged, waterlogged, flood, fire. Attribute sets, automated notifications. Okay, so when a purchase order is dispatched, pending, etc. I would like the ability to build more notifications, particularly if there's a custom one that I really want. Credit reasons, so faulty credit, customer not happy, third-party issues, that could be all sorts. Currency rates, customer types. Actually, it would be interesting to see if customer currency rates live updated. No, okay. So it looks like you have to manually set that up. Let's have a look here. Customer types, general, on cash, problem. You can add whatever you like here. Delivery method, payment terms, prefixes, probably to do with prefixes on serial number, stock take prefix, credit note, purchase order, product groups, sales groups. So these are all just your basic setup tables. Pricing tiers, shipping companies, taxes, units of measure. Now, how well does it handle GST? So we've got GST, we've got supplier return reasons, faulty return. You can add whatever you like. Warehouses, how much detail can we add? You can add an address, DEDI. And if we go back, we've got into system, doc designer, design your own doctor. Purchase order, supplier returns, warehouse, sales order. I think they're all going to be very similar. So let's just pick one. Let's go to sales order. So we do have a fair bit of design capability. So this one's quite basic. PDF preview. Right, so we can outlay what goes into it. That's pretty good. That helps us add different fields. So if we go into the document, sales order, new template name, sales order, create, blank cannot be blank. So I can move stuff on the page by the looks of it. Invoice type. I can, but I can't. So I presume it must be a valid JSON file. Okay, so it looks like it's a little read-only template. You must duplicate, mass screen, create. I can move stuff around, template, component, toolbox, company data. I want to grab the phone number and I'll just whack it somewhere random. I want to grab the website, put it down here. Commercial invoice data, Incoterm, nature of transaction code. Okay, so you do have a bit of ability to preview. And of course, we're dropping random stuff everywhere. So it's obviously not going to look that great, but then we can publish. So we do have some learning materials. We can search. There are help, there's notifications. And if you had any tasks, this little menu at the top here is quite helpful. You can quick add any of these items, sales orders, customers, all the things that you would expect to be able to do in a very short period of time. So that has been Unleashed Software. It is an inventory management tool that sits on top of your Xero accounting platform and just levels up what you're doing with inventory. I'd say at a large scale, it can be a little bit difficult to do some things, but I think there's an intermediate zone where it sort of says between up to about 20 employees was its peak plan. But if you're doing a lot of stock and a lot of inventory, that could get you quite far until you actually need to get into like a ERP type platform. But otherwise, I think that is pretty much it for our unboxing for today. Thank you for watching today's software unboxing of Unleashed Software. I'm Avon, Business Automation Specialist at Relevate. Now, if you like that video and you want to perhaps see some others, we've got a range of other videos where we're unboxing software platforms. If you've got a platform that you'd like us to unbox, please let me know in the comments. Please also give us a like and a subscribe because it really helps us to share and spread the information that we presented here today. Keep watching. We've got another one coming. Click the cards here or here. Otherwise, have a great day and we'll catch up with you next time.